What do you think of your journey so far?
So you'd think, oh, I just mapped the whole thing out. Did a navigator, had all that. No, it's not gone like we expected at all. It has felt like I have started completely over. The number one struggle has been audience build. This was like my fourth iteration on trying to do audience build. Honestly, I'm really thankful with the struggle for an audience. This will give you real context for Thanksgiving. Remember this from the October 3rd, 1863 proclamation President Lincoln made in the midst of the bloody Civil War. Welcome to the Get Business Savvy podcast. I'm George Black, and this is AJ Bishop. So what we've been doing through the month of November is celebrating Entrepreneur Month by interviewing various entrepreneurs. Please check out these interviews. Each one is different with tons of great information. So a few weeks ago, I was thinking, okay, there's 4 weeks in November, and we'll do 4 podcasts with interviews. Well, it turns out there's 5 Thursdays in November, and I just discovered this a couple of weeks ago. And so AJ and I are going to interview each other, but it really works out perfect because we are going to make this our Thanksgiving special broadcast, which we did last year. So we have a special treat for you at the end. So AJ, let's begin by asking each other questions, and I'll start off. So you've been on your entrepreneurial journey about 2 years. Has it been the story you expected it to be?
Not at all.
Okay.
I didn't entirely know what I was getting into. I knew there was a lot of uncertainty involved, but I don't exactly know what I was expecting, but the story I've gotten so far is not at all it. It's kind of like, you show up to an amusement park and you're going to ride on some fun rides, but you don't know what any of them are. And then all of a sudden you're on the giant drop and you're wishing the thing would just take you down nice and slowly, but the only way is down fast. Is kind of the only way is the only analogy I can think of to describe what this journey has been so far. And the only thing that kind of keeps you going through it, and you just hope you're going to get to the place you see in your mind at the end. But I have not expected any of the things in between getting to my end goal. And so, George, to pitch this back to you,
right.
You've been on your journey for about 4 or 5 years now?
Yes. So officially, started Live Truly Free, the website and all of that we launched on 4 years ago. But it's a little squishy. So I like to say 4 or 5 years because I actually started prepping like 5 years before, but I finished up my last company that I was helping lead, a small SaaS company, software as a service company, 4 years ago. So I think it's officially 4.
Okay. And that's just on this journey, to be clear as well, because prior to that, you were also an entrepreneur.
Right. This is, yeah. So go ahead and finish the question. I think I know what's coming.
Yeah. So what do you think of your journey so far? Is this what you expected? Is this where you thought you'd be?
Okay, so you're asking the author of The Next Level Entrepreneur, who created the Next Level Navigator to guide companies, and we've used it very, very successfully across a number of companies. And so you'd think, oh, I just mapped the whole thing out. Did a navigator, had all that. No, it's not gone like we expected at all. And here's my out. So I know this. This is like, it has felt like I have started completely over. And I'm like looking at these guys like AJ, who's, in their early 20s. And I'm like, I need to be like at least, younger with more energy. I just can't do it's like getting on that roller coaster. I just one more time on the roller coaster, take the Dramamine. And this is what I know, having helped lead so many companies, is the first 3 or 4, actually 3 to 5 years, you're going to have multiple pivots as you go along. Believe you me, I've had some pivots.
Yes. And that is very true. Once you get down into the weeds of what you're doing and you get going, all of a sudden you realize everything you thought at the beginning you were way off, or at least misguided to a large degree. And I feel like, I'm only getting started in this, so I'm interested what your thought is. If you don't have that feeling, are you probably doing something wrong, or maybe you're, delusional?
Yeah, yeah, definitely check the financials. First of all, I don't think you go into it expecting struggles, and I think we should go there and talk about some of the struggles, so we don't, let's clear the fog on this stuff, because there's actually positive things, and I think this is what you can expect. I know, like, we do the navigator with as much understanding and that moment, but the navigator is designed to pivot with you and keep updating it, because as we get on the journey, we learn more information and we have better information than when we started.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that and can resonate with that, because I definitely know more today than I did when I started.
So AJ, one of the things we've been doing, we've been asking all these entrepreneurs, and the whole purpose of these interviews in Entrepreneur Month has been to share business savvy that we've gotten out of the School of Hard Knocks. And hopefully by sharing some of our experiences, everyone who listens to these interviews is going to maybe save them some pain. That's the whole idea. And so I'd like us to dive into what we've been learning in the School of Hard Knocks, and start off with, like, just let's kick around a couple of struggles. What have we learned? That sort of thing.
Yeah, and before you ask me, George, you got to ask the first question last time, so
Okay.
I'm going to ask it this time.
All right.
What are one of those struggles that you've been experiencing recently, as you've been going on your new journey?
This isn't so recent. It's been a struggle for a long time, and it's still a current struggle. Okay. I didn't know this when I first launched, but as I launched, and it was about a year into it, because I was talking to all these really great marketing people and entrepreneurs who own marketing companies and stuff like that. And I'm asking them, how do I build an audience? And they go, well, the way you do it is you start emailing your email list and things like that. And I go, I remember this one conversation, and this guy's brilliant. And I was like, I don't think you understand. I don't have an email list. And he goes, you don't? I go, no. I've led companies one-on-one. I mean, there's 19 companies I've helped lead. I guess that's 19 audience members, but I don't have email lists like I can just go to. And he goes, oh, well, I don't know what you do. And I have to tell you, the number one struggle has been audience build.
Starting with zero online presence and trying to bring content,
right,
and good content to people that has been working, but you're just trying to change it to a completely different audience and a completely different platform.
Right. So when you and I met last summer, and then we concocted the idea to launch this podcast now over a year ago.
Yes.
And this was like my fourth iteration on trying to do audience build.
And that was just in 3 years. Or
yes.
2 years.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've got a plethora of, like, Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram, and I've had different, Twitter. I mean, I've got like 5,000 followers on Twitter.
X.
Oh, X. Right. Yeah. Formerly Twitter. So what's the struggle for you, AJ?
I think it's somewhat similar, but kind of different in the sense that I'm trying to bring a medical device product to physical therapists, and I have no physical therapy background or any medical background for that matter either. So it's jumping into a completely different arena, and trying to understand and trying to meet their needs and understand who are these customers that I'm meeting. Who are these people? What are they like? What do they need? What do they want? What are they looking for in a salesperson? What resonates with them? What really drives these people? And being able to connect with a completely different group of people that I've really never before experienced is certainly a struggle.
So what are you learning? Pitching it back to you.
I guess the lesson in that is that the market doesn't lie. There's no fooling the market. There's no spark notes to figuring out how to market to these people. It's just, you have to get out there and figure it out. And if your device isn't good enough, they'll let you know.
So it's like what Michael said last week. Michael is one of the top 1% eBay store owners in the world. So go listen to that interview. I was fascinated to hear him say how much he studied and learned from other eBay store owners, taking courses, understanding ultimately what does his customer want? What's that market niche? He does a ton of research and recon.
Yes, and that conversation highlighted it even further for me is that all these markets exist. The information is there.
Right.
You just have to be able to go research it. Michael isn't a PhD in business who knows how to, go into any industry and figure out all the market dynamics, and he didn't have to study that in school. He just is diligent and puts in the work to figure out these markets because the information is there. At the end of the day, there's many people exchanging goods and services in whatever industry you're going into, and there's a pace of business. There's a way people do things in those industries that you just have to learn. And so with that being said, that's what I've learned. What have you learned here, George?
I've learned you really need an audience. Okay. And I am so appreciative of everyone who is listening and subscribing and commenting and all that stuff, giving us feedback. And it really is really helpful because my ultimate aim is to impact and help others. And I just know we can save so much trouble that entrepreneurs don't need to go through. So save the pain. And hence this series and other things. And we've got a whole lot more stuff on the drawing boards to do. It started with my book. And I wrote the book. And then I found this guy who does book launch. And so he brought in a mastermind group. And, it's all those things. You pay some money for it. You go. It was great. But he started it off with this. I'll bet you didn't write a book to learn how to market books. I was like, check. I don't care about marketing books. I'm going to go write another one. And he goes, that's what every author wants to do. They want to go write the second book, but they haven't even sold any of the first. So I made a decision. I'm not going to write a second book until, believe you me, there's a second book, there's a third book, but I'm not going to do that until this book is reached a certain level. And I've broken through some of those tiers. The same thing is true about YouTube. And I switched to YouTube because I believed I could have more impact and audience build, and I have spent a lot of time learning YouTube through courses, leading a mastermind of YouTube creators, all sorts of things, because this is the medium I finally decided to pick. And that, I think, is what I've learned that could save people a lot of trial and error. And that is, it's not pick YouTube, it's pick one thing. Pick one social area, like, I don't care what it is, Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram or X or the plethora of other opportunities out there, and become an expert in it. It doesn't mean you don't have some of the other channels. Like, I could throw out Reels because we're doing shorts, or we'll do more shorts, but we've been doing some. I could throw them out on Reels. I could throw them out on TikTok, right? But I'm going to dominate where my focus is going to be YouTube. And I think by doing that, it just freed me up so much, because I was feeling like, I've got to do this on this posting and that posting and this thing. And I did the multiple things where you send out a bunch of stuff at the same time. Being able to pick one thing and doing it well is probably one of the biggest lessons I've learned in the last 3 or 4 years.
George, in your answer there, and even in my answer, we both talked about becoming an expert to some degree in what you're doing. But I'm also remembering we've done an episode talking about you want to be a business leader, not a business expert. So can you square away some of my confusion here? Because I'm having some cognitive dissonance. I believe that you do need to have some degree of expertise, but you also want to focus on leadership. And I'm wondering, am I wrong here? Is there something I'm missing?
Well, okay. No, that's a great question. Great question. I think here's the thing, and honestly, probably expert's not exactly the right word. I think the better way to say it is to be highly proficient at least. Okay. So I had to get into each one of these different platforms and figure out what worked, what didn't work for me. That's a personal decision. Once I picked one, then I didn't have a deep understanding of how it worked. But with YouTube, okay, there's so many facets to it, right? And so I niched it down into the podcast and go, let's just do lots of podcasts. And because my whole thing is to get out content and to get everyone thinking about different aspects of business savvy. So I'm expert in my content. Okay. There's no question about that. I'm an expert on business savvy. I have expertise there. That's what I want to get out. So the platform, I want to understand it, but I also want to build a team that I can start handing stuff off to, like editing and things like that, doing the filming, all this kind of stuff, and make it better. But I want to lead that.
I think that's a good distinction right there. You don't necessarily need to be an expert, but at least highly proficient. And like, I'm never going to be able to, and nor do I could if I wanted to, I guess, but I don't want to. I'm never going to be a physical therapist and go out there and treat patients and help them recover their shoulders. But I at least need to be highly proficient in the process of how people recover their shoulders, so I know what's going on and who I'm selling to. I think that's a very good distinction you brought there. And in terms of YouTube, like, we're just getting jumped into it. You need to be highly proficient on what's going on. But eventually, once our channel blows up here, we're going to have a clips team, and we're going to have an editing team, and we're going to have tons of teams managing everything. And we just get to come on and talk one day.
Well, yeah, slow down there, cowboy. Actually, I do have people helping me in the background on some editing and things like that. So it's not just, we're not just solo here. Honestly, AJ, we need to do an episode or 2 or 5 or something on this, because this is the transition of solopreneur to entrepreneur. And having a team, and next week's episode is going to be a great way to do that, guys. Tune in to that episode when it comes out, because we're interviewing Mike Westman and how he put together an international team.
And George, tying this back to our Thanksgiving episode that we're supposed to be doing here.
Right. Yes. Good point.
As you look back on your entrepreneurial journey so far, what's something that you're thankful for?
I think, as entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, we get bogged down in all of the struggles, right? And overcoming obstacles and facing challenges and solving problems. And we never look up, or we never look back and go, wow, honestly, I'm really thankful with the struggle for an audience. It has made me so much better as an entrepreneur and as an entrepreneur guide. I'm now moving in much broader ways as I guide entrepreneurs in the business savvy art and on the business side of the business. So it includes branding. It includes storyboarding on your website. It includes how to build an audience. If you wanted to, I could tell you, I could learn you a lot about YouTube. So I'm very thankful for these last 3 to 4 years, and it's been a grind, but we're seeing positive results, and I'm hearing from people, and stuff is happening out there. I mean, very, very good things beyond just the clients that I work with and I guide, but also with listeners. I'm getting personal reports and things like that. So we're starting to see some impact, and that's very, very exciting. So I'm very grateful.
That's amazing.
So AJ, what are you thankful for, especially in the midst of the struggles of the last couple of years?
Thankful for the struggles. I'm thankful that it's happening. I'm thankful that at leaving college, I had the opportunity to start a business, and my eyes were opened to a completely different world that you're not really taught in business school whatsoever, how entrepreneurship actually works, and getting the chance to just be thrown into the fire to learn it. And the people I've gotten to meet along the way, I think are helping me generate business savviness that I wasn't even aware I needed or was lacking or wouldn't have coming out of business school. Because if I didn't go on this journey, I would have just left business school with, a strong education, but nowhere near the business savvy side of things that needed to happen. And I know that's an ongoing journey. I'm still very young, and George and I have a lot of podcasts to do, and I have more questions to ask to get to the business savvy with the rest of our audience here. But yeah, I'm just very thankful to be on the journey, and one entrepreneurial journey actually turned into two by this podcast happening. So it's just a great learning experience for the whole 2 years, no matter how many times I've gotten frustrated with progress being slower than I originally wanted.
See, I thought what you were going to say was you were thankful for winning the $25,000. That's what I would have said. And I'm sure you are. I'm sure you are thankful.
Yes, of course. I mean, I guess the money allows for the vision to happen. So in a way, sure, I guess I said that.
No, your answer was much better than mine. So as our tradition is, we crack open my book, The Next Level Entrepreneur. The book is letters from a young entrepreneur named Max who writes to a seasoned entrepreneur named Mr. A. Max begins writing Mr. A in 1941. So they've been corresponding through the summer and into the fall. And now it's a few days before Thanksgiving. Mr. A writes a letter to Max. And AJ and I want to read to you just the last couple of little short paragraphs, because this will give you real context for Thanksgiving. And so Mr. A writes, "For as Thanksgiving Day approaches, remember this from the October 3rd, 1863 proclamation President Lincoln made in the midst of the bloody Civil War.
The year that is drawing towards its close has been filled with the blessings of fruitful fields and healthful skies. To these bounties, which are so constantly enjoyed that we are prone to forget the source from which they come, others have been added, which are of so extraordinary a nature that they cannot fail to penetrate and soften even the heart which is habitually insensible to the ever-watchful providence of Almighty God."
Mr. A concludes the letter by saying, he, referring to Lincoln, set aside the last Thursday of November as a day of thanksgiving and praise in the midst of a great war. And so, Max, I wish you and your family a very happy Thanksgiving. And likewise, AJ and I wish all of you a very happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
See you all next week. And until then, may you live truly free.